Right up Meridian, baby.
All right, welcome back to Right Up Meridian. Scott here with you on a long hiatus, but we are back. As many of you know, I'm also on the Crimson Cast series of podcasts, and it's a busy time in the fall with basketball season starting, football season going on. We have a football coaching search, but going to start giving this podcast a little bit more attention. I appreciate all of you tuning in, and it's a great time to be a Pacers fan. It's amazing stuff. It's a fun team. You know, I take my son to a lot of games, and I've been telling him this is the most fun I've had watching a Pacers team in quite a while. So where we stand right now, you know, this team is 6 in the East, 9-7. We're going to talk about the in-season tournament stuff here in a second. You know, I look at this year and I'm obviously very happy. I think most Pacer fans were in kind of a good spot, but I look at this as almost like missed opportunity for as much as they've done right. You know, that loss to Chicago on the 30th, the loss to Charlotte on the 4th, the loss to Toronto on the 22nd, the loss to Portland this Monday on the 27th, all those at home. You know, those were all very winnable games, and some of those were just games you couldn't close out. The Charlotte one is one that you're just going to wish you had back. And I know it's like you can't give yourself all the wins that were losses, but I mean, you give, but I'll do it now. You give yourself all those, and you're 13-3. You're the number one team in the NBA. You're leading the East, and you would really be getting a lot of attention right now. So, you know, maybe it's good that they had those struggles. You know, you can still see with this team, for as awesome as Halliburton has been, we'll talk about him here in a second. You know, you can still see that he and the team kind of struggles with, you know, getting the best shot when the game really gets tight in the fourth quarter and how to really close these things out. On the positive side, in the in-season tournament games, when things have gotten tight, like that game against the 76ers, the Pacers have stepped it up, and they've looked like dynamite at the end of these in-season tournament games. So you just wonder, is it a matter of focus? Like I was there for the Portland game this Monday. It was a bizarre game because the shots were just not going in. You know, this is a team in the Pacers that is shooting. Let me pull it up. Gosh, this is not the right screen here. Oh my gosh, there we go. NBA splits. So many NBA stats has like so much stuff there, but you know, this is a Pacers team that's shooting 68% effective field goal percentage. You know, their shooting numbers are just awesome. Their offensive rating is 130, third in the league. When you look at that game against Portland, I'll pull it up here. I think they were shooting like, let's go to the box score. It's going to help me get that shooting number. They shot 47% and 24% from three. It's just, it was bananas. A lot of those shots were really open shots. You know, Buddy Hield went 1 for 6 from three. You're just not going to have a lot of games where that's going to happen. So I look at that and I kind of say, all right, you've made some mistakes. And I don't think it's a matter of not locking in, but just games that like that Portland game, the shots weren't going down, but it just felt like a funky game. They were still in it. But where I'm still, you know, feeling positive is the games where it's mattered. In those in-season tournament games, the Pacers have been just dynamite, and they've closed things out. And gotta say, you know, the in-season tournament has been awesome. I love the comments of Halliburton saying like, I've never won anything and I want to win this, you know, and I've been talking with friends about this. It's interesting because I was a little bit skeptical. Like I knew I was going to be into it, but I'm like, what are they playing for? You know, what is, there's nothing really at stake. You're just playing for a cup. And, you know, what I guess I kind of forgot and was evident to me very early is, you know, everyone in the NBA obviously is ultra competitive. So you give them something to play for and they're going to want to win it. And I think they're starting to understand as well that this is not going to go away. And even though it might seem silly to us now in the first, year, obviously, of this tournament, the first couple of years, when we get 15, 20, 25 years down the road, it's not going to seem silly. And I've been telling people this, and it's true. You know, in 20, 30 years, my son, you know, when they start having debates about, Halliburton versus, Devin Booker, or, Embiid versus Jokic, or that's not really much of a debate, but, they start having those debates, just like now we talk about, how many first, second team All NBAs were they, how'd they do in the playoffs? you're going to start throwing in in-season tournament stats. It's like, well, Tatum was really good, but he didn't win an in-season tournament. And Jokic won not only Jokic got 5 titles and 3 in-season tournaments. Like it's going to be a stat, and it's going to be something that's going to bolster resumes. And so getting that first one, it's there. Go get it. So before we get to the Boston preview, just obviously you have the back and back, the home and not the home and home, but the home and then home games at Miami. So both home games are, I'm messing that up horrifically. The away games, I should say. We're playing Miami twice in Miami. I don't like how the NBA is scheduling this, where you have these, we had against the 76ers also, where you have back-to-back games at the same spot in the, you don't do a home and home, you do a home and then, you do a road game and then another road game. It's still screwing me up. You do back-to-back road games. I just don't like that. I wish they would, switch the spots, or at least play somebody else. But, we're playing the Heat 2 times in 3 days. You wonder if Jimmy Butler, he hasn't been playing a lot of back-to-backs. You wonder if he's going to play both of those games. This is obviously, Miami is right there with you on the standings. It would be nice to just split these, but come out of here healthy. Give yourself some rest. Definitely on that second game. So they play on the 30th. They play on the 2nd, and then they come back to play the in-season tournament on the 4th. So I would if I'm Rick Carlisle, I kind of push my chips in on tomorrow. I'm recording this on the 29th. Push my chips in on tomorrow's game. Try and win the first game, and then maybe you do some resting and sit some guys for the second. Sit Halliburton, and then you come back and you're ready to rock and roll on the 4th. It would suck to lose both of them, because I think we're going to be fighting for the Heat for that 5, 6, 7 spot in the real postseason tournament. So I wouldn't want to lose both of them, but I wouldn't want to have to go all out on the second and then turn right around and then come back for that Celtics game. When you look at that Celtics game, it's on Monday night. It's the first of all the in-season tournament games, which is funny because, in the last couple of years, if memory serves right, I was at the Pacers-Hornets game when they played in the play-in, and the Hornets beat us. That was during COVID, like the 2021 season, I believe. I believe that was the very first play-in game. So the Pacers have been involved in the very first play-in game and will now be involved in the very first quarterfinal in-season tournament game. I think they played one of the first actual in-season tournament, pod games as well. So the Pacers just leading the charge, just tip of the spear. Let's go, Pacers. That game against the Celtics, that's the draw I didn't want. I would have loved to have played the Knicks. That would have been awesome. At some point you got to play somebody tough. So, but man, the Celtics are a tough draw. I don't. For me, as you look at this game, I'm not sure who, on the surface, I want to say I'm not sure how we're going to guard, Tatum and Brown and Porzingis. But then I laugh. It's like, this team doesn't guard anybody. We're just probably not going to play defense. And honestly, that's probably the way they're going to look, the way the Pacers are going to look at this. Because when you look at, the stats, the Pacers are second in the league in pace at 110 possessions a game. The Celtics are near the bottom. They're 28th in the league, 93 possessions a game. And when they've lost, they've been pushed in their losses. They've been pushed. Their pace has been pushed up to about 100. So they don't want to be in that 100 possessions a game. They really want to keep it down. The Pacers, I've heard this talked about. I think it's a very interesting way to look at it. The Pacers kind of use their offense as a defense. And what I mean by this is they push the pace so fast, but they're not pushing it and having issues. Their turnover percentage is really low for as fast as they play. Their pace, like I said, is one of the fastest, but their turnover percentage is right in the middle of the league. Their effective field goal percentage is 68%. Easily one of the only 2 teams in the league are over 60. They're head and shoulders ahead of everybody else in that. Their offensive rating is 3rd in the league. So they're incredibly efficient. They shoot a lot of threes. They shoot their threes at a pretty high percentage. And so they're playing fast and efficiently. And so basically that puts a lot of pressure on the other team's offense. The Celtics, in this case, the Celtics are going to play slow or slower. They're going to have to score almost every time. And that's where I think the Pacers put the pressure. That kind of is their defense, is the pressure is that the Celtics in this case are going to have to be very efficient and score almost every time because they know the Pacers are going to be pushing the pace, getting more possessions, trying to go faster, but being efficient and scoring at pretty quick clips. So to me, it's like I think that's going to be the interesting thing. You've seen a lot of teams playing the Pacers the last couple of weeks, trying to deny Halliburton the ball and the inbounds. They're kind of doing it half-heartedly because like they'll deny him and then he'll just kind of wrap around and at half court get the ball back anyway. So it is slowing it down enough, and that might be something the Celtics try and do is like you got to pass it into Hield. Hield dribbles it up, and it's like if that takes an extra 6 seconds for the Pacers to get in their groove, maybe their pace goes to like 105, 100, which is closer to where the Celtics want it. So I think that'll be interesting to see if the Pacers are able to get Halliburton the ball off the make because he's so good at bringing it up. He gets them into their sets within 2 seconds or so. But it's going to be a heck of a game. I've been at both of the in-season tournament games here in Indianapolis. Obviously, watched the other two, and all I can say is the atmosphere has been playoff level intensity, especially in the fourth quarter. It picks up, and you're like, man, this is legitimately like these guys are going at it. The rotations are tightening up, so I'm excited to see how it goes. I think the Pacers are in kind of a no-lose situation here. Obviously, they can lose. It's going to be a bummer if they don't go to Vegas. If they get to Vegas, it's all gravy there. But I think they've kind of proven their point here. Getting one of these home games, they're going to get a national TV game. Only the second one this year. Thanks, national TV, for just paying zero attention to the Pacers, as always. But whatever. We have a lot of podcasts to bitch about that. But no, I think it's going to be awesome. We're going to try and have somebody else on, hopefully, this week to talk a little bit more about that Celtics game. But I'm excited for it, and I kind of go in thinking we'll probably lose just because the Celtics have a lot of pieces there. But I don't think it's not inconceivable the Pacers can win. They need to figure out whatever shooting funk they had last week, and I also hope they just don't run themselves too dry this weekend in Miami. So we're going to kind of go to another segment here. We're going to try something called Thumbs Up, Thumbs Down, just try and give some kind of general thoughts on things. And so, thumbs up, no question, has got to be the play of Tyrese Halliburton. He's been unbelievable. When you start looking at the stats and where he factors in, he's leading the assists in the league. He's averaging 11.9 assists per game. When you look at the most assists in a game, he has 3 of the top 5 this season. Jokic has 18. He's got a game of 17 and then a game of 16 and a game of 16. Not only that, he's also 4th in the league in number of three-pointers made with 57. He's 12th in the league in scoring. I don't have the exact number. Let me pull it up right here. I knew he was 12th, but he is, scoring 25.9 points a game. And it feels like that is trending upwards. So he's been an absolute revelation. What it's been cool for me to see is that everybody else is kind of taking his lead. So when you watch the rest of the team, guys are cutting, that they're looking for the extra pass. He really has put his stamp on this team, a stamp of a team that's having fun, that's trying to play really hard, and that is always looking for the extra pass. And that's a fun team to watch. And they're fun to watch. At some point, they got to shore up their defense, and they've got to kind of figure out some of these later game situations. When things start to muck up, they do seem to have some issues. But it's a young team. They're learning things, so that's good. Another, thumbs up I'll give to TJ McConnell, who's playing more. It's fun seeing him play more, although you do have to wonder with, Halliburton and, Nimhart playing a lot as his backup point guard. Now you do kind of wonder, what is the role for TJ McConnell? This is the least number of minutes he's played in his career. His freshman years, his rookie year, forgive me, still talking college basketball. His rookie year, he played 19 minutes a game. He then, averaged 26, 22, 19, 18, 26, 24, 20. And this season, he's averaging 14 minutes a game. He's only played in 11 games. I was wondering there for a while, he was just getting some DNPs, what the plan is. I do wonder if they're trying to get him some play to increase his trade value. I think he's awesome on the team. I think he's a glue guy. You watch the team when they get ready to start the game. He's giving everybody a special handshake. You could definitely tell he's one of the great locker room guys. But I just don't know with Halliburton stepping up and with Nembhard looking like a very, very good functional backup, I'm not sure where his role is, and his value might provide more on the trade line because he's not that expensive. There's a lot of teams out there that could use a backup point guard. And honestly, if you like the guy, it's like TJ McConnell should be playing 20, 23 minutes somewhere and could go play for a playoff team and have a real role. You can have that here, but you have a bigger role somewhere else. So, and then you can get some pieces back. Maybe you get some, draft capital back. So I don't know. I'm curious, but it's nice to see him playing. There was a weird lineup the Pacers had against the Blazers. Again, that was just a weird game. They played Halliburton, Nembhard, McConnell, and Bruce Brown, I think with like Jalen Smith or Miles Turner, but it's like those four guys. You had 3-year point guards and Bruce Brown. It was like, this is small ball. This is bananas. So we got that. The, one thumbs down. I gotta say to Jarris Walker, I'm slightly concerned. Consider me concerned, worried right now. This is, they traded the pick, so it's like the 7th pick or the 8th pick, whatever you call it, a very high draft pick. So far this year, he's only played in 4 games. In those 4 games, averaging 4.3 points, 10 minutes. He's basically had a lot, obviously, of DNPs. I was at the Spurs game where he came in mop-up time, and him and Ben Shepherd were both in mop-up time, and Ben Shepherd was like, man, like that guy, he looked a little more ready for prime time. Like Jarris just was kind of a ghost. Like he didn't do much. He didn't kind of command any attention. He wasn't going for the ball, and that's concerning with such a high draft pick. We know Carlisle doesn't play rookies. Maybe he doesn't have a place on this team. For a guy that came in as kind of like a power forward who had some really good, defensive bona fides at Houston, and for a team here that has like no defense, you do just wonder what, in the minutes that like Isaiah Jackson has, who's been really good in the time he's been in there, you're like, why isn't Walker able to grab some of those minutes? They obviously signed Nembhard, or sorry, not Nembhard, Nesmith to a contract extension. Nesmith has been awesome. We'll talk about him in future pods, but it's like those should be some Walker minutes, and it's no knock on Nesmith. It's like, Walker, you're a lottery pick. Like you should be sniffing the court a little bit more. So it's concerning, and it's just something I want to keep aware. Hopefully, it's just we're growing him into a timetable. But this Pacers team is better than I thought it was going to be, and it's starting to look like, we'll talk later. But like, is this a team that should be making a move at the deadline, not trying to continue to build for next year? Like, is there a window to go for it now? And you look at like one of the Thompsons, in Detroit. It's like, did we whiff on a pick there? But we will see, and we'll see. So I'm going to pause there. And the last thing I'll say. One more thumbs down. Listening to Bill Simmons' podcast, his latest one, they were talking about Tyrese Halliburton a little bit, which is nice. Nice hearing us talked about a little bit more on the national pods. But he was talking about, could Halliburton become the best Pacer ever? And of course, the comparison then is against, Reggie Miller. And obviously, we are very early in this discussion. And I've had the exact same thought. But what I thought was funny is that both he and his guest were kind of like, they go through the litany that it's very possible. And they go through the history of Reggie's stats, which I'm not going to go through here, but it's like, never made a second team or first team All NBA, only made, I think, 6 All-Star games, and, his career stat numbers were not great. And Bill Simmons did defend him. It's like, he had that superpower where he thought he was the best player on the court, even against guys like Jordan would go toe-to-toe with him. I think the thing they also missed is Reggie just had those playoff moments, which that's part of the Reggie Miller experience. Like, unfortunately, when you just get down to stats, if you just look at numbers and statistics, in 20, 30 years, Reggie is not going to stand up. You had to have been there. And it's funny because Bill Simmons is the same one a couple months ago was defending, both Bill Walton and Clyde Drexler as the best trailblazer ever when people were saying, Dame was the best trailblazer ever when they're looking to trade Dame. And he was like, it's a lot of stats, but there's no playoff success. I would say the same thing here. And obviously, I'm not saying Halliburton, I'm not like he's been here a year and a half, like give him time. But, when you look at Halliburton, like he's getting the stats, he's going to get some, probably more All-Star games than Reggie if he continues to play at this clip. And he'll probably be getting higher All-NBA levels than Reggie. But if he does this for 7 or 10 years and then has similar playoff success to Dame, I think the question has to be asked is like, what is important to you as a fan? Again, it's theoretical, but I thought it was interesting and a little bit hypocritical is not the right word, but a little bit like for Simmons to be so against, the Dame thing, which I agree with him. Like, I think Walton and Clyde Drexler are, they're better Blazers because of they've had that long-term stability. Drexler did, Walton didn't, but Drexler had not only the stats, but also the playoff success. I look at Reggie Miller, his stats weren't as great, but he took that team, that Pacers team in the 90s to some, high level Eastern Conference semifinals, Eastern Conference finals, and then, they went to the finals, albeit when Reggie was a little bit diminished as the leader of that team, but he was still a major player in that team, and then another Eastern Conference finals, and may have had another finals and or championship run if Ron Artest doesn't go bananas. That's a different topic. But I look at that and it's like, Halliburton is going to probably have stats that eclipse him, and he might have awards that eclipse him. But, I think for people who are not Indiana Pacers fans, who were, not around during that time, I think the thing that you have to keep in mind is, Halliburton is going to need to have some of those playoff successes and playoff moments, and moments that, turn into wins in series, which Reggie had, for him to eclipse Reggie. So a long way away, but no, it's unfortunately the history of the Pacers, that mantle is gettable. For a while, I thought it could have been Paul George, but then he wanted to leave. I still kind of stand by Paul George might be the most athletic basketball player we've had, not just raw athleticism, but like athleticism in somebody who can, translated into basketball stats and stuff. I just mean like there's freak athletes who are really good athletes who maybe aren't the best player. Paul George might have been the best combo of that. I felt for like for a season, it's like, man, Victor Oladipo kind of had it too. Like he kind of had those big moment abilities where he would really rise to the moment. But then he left also. But Victor had the ties to Indiana, the university. But you see it with Halliburton. And I do love, he has that big moment thing to him where, that game in Cleveland where he turned to the fans like, you did this. Like, this is your fault. Like, Indiana fans love that. Like, that's Reggie. And I just hope that Halliburton has the opportunity in the coming months and years, months with the in-season tournament and years in the next couple of years in the playoffs to have that moment, a la like Trae Young had a couple of years ago against the Knicks where he put him to sleep and did the little cold thing. Like, there's moments where I think, Halliburton has been able to step up to the plate when the games are getting tough. He hasn't done it every time, and sometimes he takes the wrong shot. He's having trouble kind of figuring that out. He's also really, really young. It's going to take some time, but he's also closed some of those games out. Like that Cavs game, he closed it out, and then he talked some shit to the fans, and that's awesome. And I would love to see him get that opportunity in the playoffs to show some of that, that side of him, a little bit of that nasty side and the ability to close it out. Because if he does that, then yes, you could be looking at maybe the best Pacer ever. But we've got a long time. Reggie played here for 20 years. You got a long time. Halliburton's in middle of his third, not second season if you count number of games, third full season. So a little bit to go there. Yeah, so we'll end on that. If you have questions for the pod, would love to hear from you. You can email us, rightupmeridian@gmail.com. Rightupmeridian, just spell it like the street, @gmail.com. I appreciate everybody for listening. We'll hopefully have one more up before the play-in game on Monday. If not, man, enjoy the game, and we'll have a follow-up from after that game, and then we'll continue to kind of do big picture look at the Pacers throughout the season. It's going to be fun, man. It is going to be fun. I want to thank you all for listening. For Right Up Meridian, this is Scott, signing off.